Welcome to Talking Climate with Katharine Hayhoe. Each episode, we explore how climate change is affecting the people, places, and things we love, and what we can do to make a difference. From science to solutions and stories that inspire, you're in the right place for real talk about real change. For me, 2025 has felt like a particularly heavy year. So as we head into the holiday season, I wanted to share a few recommendations, books, podcasts, and newsletters that encourage me, make me think, teach me new things, and give me hope. Let's dive in. Books. If you're looking for an honest and cathartic climate read, climate scientist Kate Marvel, who guest-edited Talking Climate in July, never shies away from looking the climate crisis right in the face. She's amazing at coming up with short, pithy ways to think about climate action, like, I believe we can aim for something a little bit better than not doomed. Right? In her recent book, Human Nature: 9 Ways to Feel About Our Changing Planet, Kate explores climate change through the lens of 9 emotions: wonder, anger, guilt, fear, grief, surprise, pride, hope, and love. If you enjoy real-life inspiring stories, you'll love Mick Sheldrick's book, From Ideas to Impact, a playbook for influencing and implementing change in a divided world. It's full of examples of how ordinary people have scaled solutions to poverty, health, climate, and more to make a global difference. The book goes into detail on the coal town reinventing itself for a sustainable future that's in a previous Talking Climate edition. He also shares the story of how educators and activists in Africa helped secure government funding for access to menstrual products that allowed millions more girls to stay in school. Looking for cool science? David Baker, the physicist who studies exoplanets and guest-edited Talking Climate in September, has a book called The Shortest History of Our Universe: The Unlikely Journey from the Big Bang to Us. It spans 13.8 billion years of history in 256 pages, answering questions including how did time begin and what made life on Earth the way it is. In it, he also discusses what the future of life on Earth will look like, given that the climate is changing the fastest it ever has in human history. For children ages 8 to 12, I recommend Climate is Just the Start by British climate activist Michaela Loach. She helps young people understand the climate crisis and what they can do about it. Data scientist Hannah Ritchie wrote Clearing the Air, a practical guide to climate optimism, cataloging the many reasons we have to be hopeful about the green energy transition. In A Barrister for the Earth, 10 Cases of Hope for Our Future, British-Peruvian barrister Monica Faria-Tinta describes the legal strategies environmentalists are adopting to stand up for nature and hold polluters to account. Fellow Canadian David Gesselbrocht has collected a whole series of amazing climate solution case studies in his book, Climate Hope: Stories of Action in an Age of Global Crisis. And finally, if you're looking for a fictional read, my favorite series this year was The Shadow Histories by H.G. Perry. In it, she reimagines William Wilberforce's fight to abolish slavery with vampires and dreamwalkers. But the emotional core feels amazingly relevant today. The helplessness, frustration, and persistence required to create real change. The parallels to climate change, from powerful forces working behind the scenes to control politicians, to how much effort's required to overcome the inertia of the economic status quo, make it a surprisingly inspiring read. Podcasts. I love the podcast A Matter of Degrees by 2 more of my favorite climate thinkers, Leah Stokes and Catherine Wilkinson. Climate change is the story of our time. We're here to help you understand it in a deeper way and take part in that story yourself, they explain. Start with the latest episode featuring Kate Marvel. Another wonderful and informative podcast is TIL Climate. Today I Learned Climate from MIT, which recently wrapped its 7th season. Episodes tackle fascinating topics from advances in geothermal energy to all the resources required to produce a single tortilla chip. Each episode comes with its own educator guide, a set of questions and activities that high school and secondary educators can use in their classrooms. Jane Goodall's HopeCast features fascinating conversations that the conservationist had during her lifetime. I recommend starting with the episode featuring the legendary Margaret Atwood, titled "Hope is the Legacy We Build Together for a Better World." Looking for a bite-sized chunk of good news in your ears? Tune into Good News from Planet Earth, a 5-minute podcast from Voice Over for the Planet that highlights joyful news from around the planet, from teens tackling microplastic pollution to landmine-sniffing bees. These podcasts will surprise you and boost your mood. Newsletters. This was the hardest section to pare down, as it feels like the number of incredible newsletters on climate change and the environment grew exponentially this year. First, some of my favorite climate scientists have newsletters. You can stay up to date on the latest climate news with Andy Dessler and Zeke Hausfather at The Climate Brink. At the Climate Cafe, you can learn from 6 giants in the field, scientists who I've looked up to all my life, including Ben Santer, Gary Yohe, and Christy Eby. Looking for inspiration? For that, I subscribe to What If We Get It Right by Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, the weekly Anthropocene, where Sam Mady-Coast shares an exhaustive roundup of climate progress from around the world each week. In case you missed it, he interviewed me last year for his newsletter, and Britt Ray's Unthinkable, a toolkit for navigating our dangerous climate reality and the eco-anxiety that comes along with that. Best writers? I have to recommend Bill McKibben of The Crucial Years, journalist Sammy Roth and his brand new climate-colored goggles, and Emily Atkin and the amazing investigative team at Heated with their essential investigative deep dives into a wide range of topics. From how Microsoft is using its AI to help fossil companies drill more oil and gas, to CBS News slashing its excellent climate reporting. Last, but by no means least, I love Sam Bentley's upbeat content on a huge variety of platforms. He makes videos about good environmental news from around the world for TikTok and Instagram, and has a newsletter you can subscribe to. He even published a book called Good News, Planet Earth that highlights sustainable solutions around the world. I got to catch up with him at Climate Week in New York, and I'm looking forward to him guest editing his own Talking Climate newsletter in the future. What you can do. The what to do this week is simple. Share one of the resources in this newsletter. If you read one of the books, pass it along or recommend it to a book club. If you enjoy a podcast episode, share it with friends who love podcasts too. And if you find a newsletter you like, post it on social media, share why you appreciate it, and invite others to subscribe. I wrote my own book, Saving Us, nearly 5 years ago to answer the question I've been asked more than any other over the past decade. What gives you hope? My answer is always the same: taking action and hearing about others who are acting too. That's what fuels hope. So this holiday season, take action by sharing something you learned from any of these resources above and recommending them to others. Thanks for listening to Talking Climate, narrated by Ann Cloud. For more resources, links, and actions you can take, check out the full newsletter. at www.talkingclimate.ca. Thanks for being part of the conversation. Now go out and have one of your own.